At the beginning of the film, we see two young Mormon missionaries, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, around 19 to 20 years old, who are devotedly engaged in spreading the teachings of Christianity. Both sisters are fully committed to their faith and are excited to fulfill their mission successfully. They work as missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a specific religious organization. Sister Barnes is portrayed as confident and bold, whereas Sister Paxton is shy and reserved. The contrast between Barnes's confidence and Paxton's timidity highlights the opposite aspects of their personalities. Although modern youth show little interest in religious matters, and the sisters often face mockery and disrespect, they continue their mission with unwavering dedication. This reflects the strength of their faith and their sense of responsibility towards society. One day, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton arrive at the house of a man named Mr. Reed. They lock their bicycles at the gate, and Sister Barnes puts the key in her pocket. Suddenly, it starts raining, and their coats get soaked. Mr. Reed opens the door, and the sisters enthusiastically introduce themselves. Mr. Reed invites them inside, but the sisters politely explain that, according to church rules, they cannot enter the home of an unmarried man unless another woman is present. This rule exists to preserve their moral and spiritual integrity. Mr. Reed replies that his wife is home and that she's baking a blueberry pie. Hearing this, and since it's raining outside, the sisters decide to go inside. Inside the house, Mr. Reed takes their coats and says he'll check if the blueberry pie is ready. As soon as he leaves, Sister Barnes begins to feel uneasy. She notices a butterfly fluttering weakly against the window, as if trying to escape. Moments later, Mr. Reed returns with some drinks for them. They begin a polite conversation about religion, but it soon takes a strange turn. Mr. Reed starts speaking oddly, saying that he has been struggling to find the true faith. He then brings up the subject of Sister Barnes's late father, making her uncomfortable. When Sister Paxton tries to ease the tension, Mr. Reed mentions the early Mormon practice of polygamy, which was abolished after 1890. The sisters defend their faith, explaining that polygamy was once practiced to increase population during the early days of settlement but was discontinued once the population stabilized. Mr. Reed, however, blames Joseph Smith, the founder of Mormonism, for introducing such practices. The discussion becomes increasingly difficult for the sisters, as they strive to defend their beliefs. Then, Mr. Reed starts comparing religions to fast food restaurants. He says that just as people go to different fast food chains, they also choose different religions, each claiming to be the best, yet none truly satisfying the soul. He adds that he has tried many religions but has never found true peace in any of them. His words feel insulting to the sisters. To lighten the mood, Sister Paxton says that they would like to meet Mr. Reed's wife. Mr. Reed agrees and goes to call her. Earlier, while they were talking, Sister Paxton had mentioned something interesting. She said that when she dies, she believes she'll become a butterfly and stay close to her loved ones. She would sit on their fingers so they would know it's her. This statement later turns out to be very important in the story. As Mr. Reed walks into another room, Sister Barnes notices something strange. The scented candle burning in the room smells like blueberry pie. There is no actual pie being baked. At that moment, she realizes that perhaps Mr. Reed doesn't have a wife at all. They begin to realize that they are trapped. The front door is locked, and their coats, containing the keys to their bicycles, are with Mr. Reed. When Reed returns, Sister Barnes pretends that she's getting a call from the church and needs to leave immediately. However, there's no signal on their phones. Reed tells them that the front door can't be opened now because it locks with a time delay mechanism and won't open until morning. Therefore, he suggests that the sisters should leave through the back door. At this point, the sisters are in a room that looks like a prayer chamber, decorated much like one in a church. When they hear about the back door, Barnes and Paxton begin to understand that Reed is trapping them. Another strange detail emerges. When Reed returns their coats, the key to the bicycle lock is found in Paxton's coat instead of Barnes's coat, where it was supposed to be. The situation becomes increasingly tense. Reed explains that the walls of his house contain metal, which blocks phone signals, so they won't be able to make any calls. Hearing this, the sisters nervously insist that they would like to meet his wife. Reed smirks and replies, "Do you still think I have a wife?" implying what the audience already suspects, that his wife probably doesn't exist. He then compares this to people who believe in God or religion, even though all their lives they're presented with evidence suggesting that neither truly exists. Barnes says she'll leave through the back door. But when they open it, they realize it doesn't lead outside, it goes down into the basement. Meanwhile, at the church, an elder notices that Sister Paxton and Sister Barnes have been gone for quite some time. He wonders if something has happened to them or if they've just gotten delayed. Concerned, the elder sets out to look for them. Back at Reed's house, he begins to explain his beliefs using the example of the famous board games Monopoly and the Landlord's Game. He starts describing them in detail. Barnes interrupts and asks what these games have to do with their situation. Reed replies that the connection runs deep. He explains that there are three major monotheistic religions in the world: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Judaism is the oldest but is followed by only about 0.2% of the world's population. Christianity, on the other hand, has the largest number of followers, making it, according to Reed, the monopoly of religions. He says that just as board games evolve into new versions over time, religions too develop into new forms as history progresses. Judaism, he explains, can be seen as the original version, like the landlord's game, while Christianity is the most popular version, like Monopoly. Furthermore, he adds that newer versions of Monopoly represent newer monotheistic religions such as Islam. Reed's analogy suggests that humanity's faith has evolved over time and that religions, like games, exist in multiple versions. According to Reed, Judaism is the oldest of the three, but its followers don't actively promote it. This, he says, is significant because the lack of evangelism has kept the religion less widespread. For instance, people like Barnes and Paxton are out in the world trying to convert others to Christianity, whereas Jews typically do not seek converts. Reed continues his strange philosophical talk, this time about music. He says he's fond of The Air That I Breathe by the Hollies, an old classic. Then he mentions Creep by Radiohead, calling it a modern milestone, and finally Get Free by Lana Del Rey, 2017, which many believe is a copy of Creep. Reed explains that in the world of music, it's common for artists to draw inspiration from earlier songs. According to Reed, all these tracks are essentially different versions of the same song, and he argues that the same concept applies to monotheistic religions. Just as one original song gives rise to many reinterpretations, religions, too, share a single origin but evolve through different cultures and eras into various interpretations. Then Reed poses a question to the sisters. After hearing all this, which door will you choose, the door of faith or the door of doubt? Paxton, terrified and desperate to survive, decides to choose the door of doubt, hoping it might lead to an escape. But Barnes disagrees. She insists that even though religions share similarities, there are also vast differences among them. She accuses Reed of twisting facts, cherry-picking information, and using silly board game analogies to distort reality. Despite everything, Barnes says she still believes in her God. She convinces Paxton to stand by her and choose the door of faith. Both of them walk through the faith door, only to discover, as expected, that it doesn't lead outside. Instead, it leads down into the basement. Shockingly, the doubt door also leads to the same place, proving that Reed has been toying with them all along. Barnes frantically searches for a way out but finds none. While looking around, she accidentally breaks a wooden stick with nails embedded in it. She gives Paxton a letter opener that she had secretly stolen from the room upstairs and whispers to her. When Reed comes down here, as soon as I say, magic underwear, you attack him with this and kill him. Suddenly, an eerie-looking woman enters the basement, carrying a blueberry pie. She starts behaving strangely, folding her hands and praying in a distorted manner. Meanwhile, upstairs, we see Reed working with a miniature model of the house, noting every event and its exact timing. This reveals that everything that's happening has been carefully pre-planned by him. Then, through a device, Reed begins communicating with the sisters. He claims that he has finally discovered the one true religion, and he's going to prove it. His proof involves the woman in the basement. She will eat the blueberry pie, which has been poisoned. She will die, but then, according to Reed, she will magically come back to life, proving his theory. The woman eats the pie and, indeed, dies. But before Reed can stage his so-called miracle, the church elder arrives at the door, searching for the two missing sisters. As the doorbell rings, Reed rushes upstairs, distracted. The sisters scream for help, but their voices can't reach the front door. Reed lies to the elder, telling him that no sisters ever came to his house. While Reed is busy upstairs, Barnes pulls up the carpet under the basement door gap and manages to grab a few matchsticks lying there. When Reed comes back, the sisters are again forced to stay in the basement. Paxton notices something disturbing. The woman's corpse has moved slightly from where it was lying before. She whispers this to Barnes, but Barnes ignores it. Instead, she tries to light a match and set the place on fire, hoping the blaze will create a way to escape. Before she can do it, the woman suddenly comes back to life. She begins describing what she saw in the afterlife, but then she looks at them and, with a chilling calmness, says, "It's not real." At that very moment, Reed enters the basement again. He sends the woman away and smugly tells the sisters that they've just witnessed a miracle, proof that there is no heaven, no afterlife, and no divine being. He explains that life is nothing but a simulation, and when people die, their brains are simply unplugged. He insists that religion exists only to exploit humanity's fear of death, and that he alone knows the truth about God and the afterlife. Barnes angrily responds that what he showed wasn't a miracle at all, it was just a clever illusion. She argues that the woman likely experienced a near-death experience, NDE, not resurrection. She explains that people who go through NDEs often describe similar visions, a bright white light, floating above their bodies, seeing clouds or tunnels, because at that moment, the brain isn't getting enough oxygen or neural signals, which causes hallucinations. Barnes knows this firsthand. When she was 4 years old, she almost died after eating Taco Bell food that caused severe poisoning. During surgery, she was clinically dead for a while, but she came back. She had experienced an NDE herself. That's why Barnes doesn't believe Reed's twisted theories. Her faith remains unshaken, and she's determined not to let him manipulate them with his so-called miracles. Barnes and Reed begin to argue intensely. During the argument, Barnes utters the secret code word, magic underwear. The plan was that as soon as she said those words, Paxton would attack Reed with the letter opener. But before Barnes can finish saying the word, Reed lunges forward and stabs her, killing her instantly. Reed then calmly says that although Barnes is dead, she will come back to life. The horrific sight leaves Paxton completely shaken. After waiting a few moments and seeing that Barnes doesn't rise, Reed takes a knife, cuts into her arm, and pulls out a small metal piece. He claims that it's an implant, proof that Barnes is not a real human but part of a program, and that's why she hasn't resurrected. Paxton, trembling but defiant, replies that the metal piece isn't a microchip at all, it's a contraceptive implant. She adds that the woman's resurrection earlier was just a trick, part of a larger stage deception. Her logical explanation shocks Reed. He never expected his carefully crafted plan to unravel so quickly. While the elder knocks again at the front door, the sisters scream for help and light a match. Amid the chaos, Reed secretly switches the woman's body through a hidden panel in the basement wall. Paxton notices this and discovers the secret door, cleverly concealed beneath a table, showcasing her intelligence and courage. Reed tells Paxton to follow him through the hidden passage into the cellar, where she is confronted by a horrifying sight, several dead bodies and religious symbols scattered everywhere. The grim scene makes it clear that Reed has been conducting a macabre experiment, trying to simulate his twisted version of life, death, and resurrection. This isn't just a home, it's part of a terrifying human experiment. Eventually, Paxton finds the lock from her bicycle, a sign that escape might still be possible. But then she stumbles upon another room, filled with women trapped inside cages. Their eyes reflect both fear and a faint glimmer of hope. Paxton wonders, if she manages to escape, will she be able to save them too? Just then, Reed appears behind her and asks coldly, "Now do you finally understand what the one true religion is?" Paxton, gathering her courage, begins to expose him. She explains how Reed had manipulated everything from the very start. When they first arrived, he cleverly took their coats. Then he secretly removed the bike key from Barnes's coat, moved their bicycles away from the main gate, and placed the key in Paxton's coat pocket. He knew that when the elder came searching for them, there would be no sign of the bikes, making it look like the sisters were never there. Paxton also recalls noticing that Reed's hair was wet when he returned, proving he had gone outside to hide the bikes. Everything, from the locked doors to the implanted key switch, was part of his meticulous plan. He had intended from the beginning to kill Barnes and play his psychological game solely with Paxton, bringing her exactly where he wanted her to be. Suddenly, Paxton grabs a sharp object and slashes Reed's neck. She then rushes back to the basement to check on Barnes. But before she can reach her, the wounded Reed appears behind her and stabs Paxton in the stomach. Both of them collapse. As he falls, Reed mutters, "Pray for us." Bleeding heavily, he crawls closer to Paxton, who begins to pray softly. Her prayer seems to bring him a strange, fleeting sense of peace. And then, in a sudden, shocking moment, Barnes rises. She's barely alive but still breathing. With her last ounce of strength, she grabs the nail-studded wooden stick and drives it into Reed, killing him once and for all. Moments later, Barnes dies in Paxton's arms. Paxton somehow manages to drag herself upstairs. She spots the miniature model of the house, and realizing it mirrors the real layout, she uses it to find an escape route. She crawls through a vent, emerging outside into the freezing air, heavy snowfall surrounding her. She collapses into the snow, gasping for breath. Then, gently, a butterfly lands on her finger, the very symbol of the story she once told about life after death. For a brief moment, it sits still, and then it disappears. That's where the film, Heretic, ends. The film leaves the audience questioning the nature of faith and perception, showing how belief can be both a source of strength and blindness. Paxton and Barnes were so steadfast in their faith that they refused to see the terrifying truth unfolding before them. But the film closes with a haunting question. Do you believe Paxton really escaped? Or was her escape, and that final butterfly, just another illusion?